Today on the livecast, we're thinking about how to make the most of Christmas. Well, I am Glen Scrivener.
I'm Paul Feesey.
And we are talking about Christmas because Christmas lights are being switched on in towns all across the country.
Geese are getting fat and all that stuff.
Yes.
Christmas is coming.
Yes, 5 gold rings. I don't know any of the other words to that, but that's all you need to know.
Mockingbirds.
Oh, yeah.
Calling birds.
Calling, but you don't
I
even
don't know.
But you know 5 gold
Partridge
rings.
in a pear tree.
Yeah.
Is that? I heard someone told me that was Jesus.
Yeah, it's all very Christian, apparently.
Is it?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
all the 12 days of Christmas. Homework for you at home. Can you Google quickly and tell us what the 12 days of Christmas mean?
Yeah.
And you get a prize. You get to...
You get a Speak Life t-shirt. No, I don't know. Can't guarantee that, but...
You just did. The toothpaste is out of the tube. All right, we'll have to come up with a... Does it have to say Speak Life, or could it just be a t-shirt that you have
you
worn
can write your own
once?
stuff on it.
It has Paul's scent.
Oh, dear.
The healing properties of Paul's t-shirt. Yeah, so let us know about your favorite Christmas carols. Is it currently okay to put up a Christmas tree, or is that...
No, of course not.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
When is it okay?
December. You
Okay.
need to be in December basically.
1st?
Well, yeah, December 1st is fine, but
Okay.
no earlier.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and no Christmas music.
No
Until
Christmas
then.
music.
No, of course not.
Man, you have not been around the office.
Just call me Ebenezer.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I've got one Christmas tune going through my head constantly.
I can
Just
imagine I
the
know which
Carol
one that
of
is.
the Bells.
Yes.
Because do stay tuned. We are going to release one of our 4 Christmas films later on, and it is set to The Carol of the Bells. It's a musical comedy, and it is the most demented, deranged, and deranging carol you could possibly have.
I used to think I liked that song, but
no.
I've heard it enough times now.
It's one bar over. Yeah, and there is that. But we have Will and Claire from Meet the Nativity, who are our new stars.
Yeah.
So
And it's like a musical number, isn't it? So
it's a musical
it's
comedy.
like a musical episode of Meet the Nativity.
It is.
Nice.
And there are a number of Speak Life people in it, including... I make a cameo. So
You're like M. Night Shyamalan,
Yes.
just popping up in your own...
Hitchcockian, I
things.
like to think,
Yeah.
but yes. And also Pete Collison is in there,
Yeah.
and he's giving a great skeptical chin. If you
Peering
spot
over the
if you
monitor.
spot Pete at about 1 minute 45 seconds, he's kind of, what's this? It's all about the journey of a gift that keeps getting passed around from person to person to person, and it was great because I showed it to my 4-year-old daughter, and she kept saying, "Why don't they open the gift? Why don't they open the gift?" Which is exactly the
right
response
question.
you get, because at the end you're left with, this Christmas, open the gift. And we very much hope that people will, from that video, click through, get a free book, The Gift. And we very much hope that won't be cheapskate Christians who are trying to get a free book. But
you know who you are.
Yeah,
You're always
every
out there.
year. We know who you are,
Got
cheapskates.
16 copies of the Gospel of Mark that they've taken from various missions over the years.
That's right. Well, sell them on down the road. But we very much hope that non-Christians pick up these copies of The Gift, a little Christmas book that I've written. And the last time we did a big outreach like this, we actually gave away 1,700 copies of 4 Kinds of Christmas when we did Meet the Nativity. So we're very much...
Does it say anywhere how if you're like a church and you want like a load to give out?
Then
how
you
we can
pay
do that?
some money.
Well, I get that.
Yeah.
But where can they go? To
The
find
Good
these?
Book, thegoodbook.co.uk/the-gift. Got that?
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Nice and
you
easy.
can get a box of 100 for 100 quid. That's
Great.
not bad, is it?
Pretty good going.
Go on,
Worth the investment.
Yeah, Ruby needs new shoes, so please do go and get 100 copies or more of The Gift. But we are talking about Christmas and how we can make the best use of Christmas. And I guess that's one way that we can make the best use of Christmas is online.
Yeah.
It is now acceptable to share Christmas videos because John Lewis.
John Lewis advert's out.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I've not watched it yet.
Haven't you?
No.
Yeah, it's yeah. It's got a dragon in it.
Was last year's the one with the furry beast on
Yes.
the bed thing?
Yes.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought that was a bit meh.
Yeah.
And the year before, wasn't it a dog on a trampoline?
Yeah, that was
yeah,
really
that was
meh.
rubbish as well.
Yeah, and then wasn't it the polar bear waking up from hibernation and yeah.
I don't know. The one I remember having a real impact was the Somewhere Only We Know one, the Man on the Moon one.
Yeah, which our own Dan Rackham did a brilliant parody of.
It's out there.
It's
Go
out
find
there.
it.
Yeah, go and find it. And so we have thought about this year a dragon, And actually, if you stay tuned, maybe next week. No, actually, at the end of this week, we're going to release There's a Dragon in My Nativity, which is another way of reaching out online.
Did you know there was going to be a dragon in the John Lewis one?
If I had have known, I mean, they would have shot someone. It's the advertising company is called Adam and Eve,
right?
And I know someone who works for Adam and Eve, and like she would have known back in February what they were doing, but she was like, honestly, it's not worth. It's not my job's worth.
Eating from the tree.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I tried to tempt her, but she would not. She would not reveal the secret. We have already released a Christmas film. Have you guys seen the Happy Land Nativity? It's a charming 3D animation done via stop motion, and many of the people who made the video are in the room. Let me just ask, how many photographs, Kezia Hulse, how many photographs were used in the making?
So it's
12 per second.
I'm not really good at maths, but it's about 3 minutes. So.
Okay, 180 times 12. Come on, Paul.
No, it's not going to happen.
180.
No.
If you text us in, you get a free pair of socks from Paul with his scent on it. Let us know. That's a lot of photographs. They did a great job. And should we see the finished product?
We have a lot of socks I'm going to have to send.
Should we see the finished product, and let's watch the Happy Land Nativity.
The very first Christmas was long, long ago. A girl called Mary had started to grow. Inside she carried a wee baby boy, and an angel was sent to tell of the joy.
Angel rocket. That's not in the story. Angels don't need rockets.
Mary was speechless. She didn't know how. These things could have happened, but still she bowed. The angel then made an appearance to Joe, who was worried when Mary had started to show. But Gabriel said, "You may find this odd. Just trust me. These things are all coming from God. Mary is carrying God's only son, the Saviour of old, the long-promised one. So call his name Jesus, your Maker in skin. He's come now to save all his people from sin." Meanwhile, great Caesar Augustus in Rome had made a decree, "Return to your home." For Joseph, this ruling meant Bethlehem town, so they rode on their donkey all the way down.
Dad, come here. What are you doing? She said they were riding on a donkey, not a helicopter. Fine, that's better. That's not in the story.
Arriving in Bethlehem, Mary was blooming, but try as they might, no hotels had room in. They asked one innkeeper, "Sir, are you able?" The innkeeper said, "Oh, go on, use my stable." So Jesus was born in a cold cattle shed, with nowhere to lay him. A trough was his bed.
Wait, what? That can't be in the story. Actually, it is. Listen.
Now out in the fields, some angels appeared to shepherds who cowered, and all of them feared. One angel said, "Peace, I bring you good news. The Saviour is born, so put on your shoes." The shepherds all hurried to old Bethlehem to worship the baby who'd been born for them. Away in the east, there lived some wise men who followed it it went. They knew it would lead them to worship the king, so gold, incense.
It's getting crowded now. Do you think there's room?
Here round the baby, the world is invited. The strongest and weakest, they all are united. From wise men to shepherds, from angels to sheep, from shiniest heights to the darkest deep. So come to the manger, see God become small. The true Christmas story has room for us all.
It's bigger than you thought. Maybe it is in the story.
The true Christmas story has room for us all. So that was the big conceit of the Happy Land Nativity, that you've got this little world called the Nativity, but you might think that rocket ships and pirate ships and, London buses don't belong in the nativity story. But actually, I do think it's quite cool that the nativity is a little microcosm that orbits around Jesus. And so you've got angels and animals, sort of the highest creation and the lowest creation. You've got rich and poor, you've got the wise men, and you've got the shepherds. But everything kind of orbits around Jesus. And so maybe in this story, there's room for rocket ships and pirates and that kind of thing. So,
And for you.
and for you.
Yeah,
Even for
there
you.
we are. And so is that actually going to be shown in the early learning centres? Because that was working together, wasn't it?
We very much hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's part of why we put subtitles on it, so that it can just go on
Just plays
screens
silently.
all over early learning centres across the country.
Because am I right in thinking the guy who owns Early Learning Centre is a Christian? And he's
Yeah.
the guy who
yeah.
owns all the entertainer shops?
That's
Because
right.
they're famous, aren't they, for not
Mhm.
opening on a Sunday?
Yes. Yeah,
And,
that's right.
It's
Yeah.
his kind of Christian ethos.
Yeah, and
So-
God has blessed them, and a great organisation, and they've gotten behind us, and they like what we've done, so
Yeah.
we're very happy to have collaborated on that.
And people can use it, can't they? If people want to use that, you can
Mhm.
download it for free. You can
Mhm.
grab it off YouTube. You can
Yep.
find a way to download it there. Some people struggle to download on YouTube, don't they?
Mm,
So
mm.
are we going to have a link somewhere
will.
that we try and
We
get it?
will, and people
Sweet.
can go to speaklife.org.uk and they can
Find
figure
it,
out how to get all 4 of our Christmas films, because that's our 3D animation. We've got musical comedy releasing very soon. We hope today. Carol of the Bells, The Gift, it's called. We've got a 2D animation called There's a Dragon in My Nativity, and there's a poem video called The Coming, a
Yeah.
cinematic journey.
Brilliant. Well, I'm
Mm.
sure the Happy Land one will get used in plenty of
Mm.
Christmas all ages in particular. I'd have
It
thought.
is charming. It is
All those
absolutely charming.
things.
So well done, interns. They did a fantastic job on that, and stay tuned for the other 3. But
Yes.
as well as that, how do we make the best use of Christmas? If you are perhaps a church leader, how do you think we make best use of Christmas in terms of outreach?
Well, I guess, with the coming up to Christmas now, you'd be thinking about asking your congregation or encouraging your congregation to be inviting people along to things
Yeah.
on the whole.
Mhm.
Encouraging them to be thinking about who they can bring to what. I mean, the thing about Christmas is it doesn't matter whether you're the most resolute atheist.
Mm.
People come to things at Christmas.
It's amazing.
So I remember a guy at uni who I was in halls with and shared a house with later, and he was an atheist. His religious beliefs on Facebook for a long time read Dawkins is God.
he hasn't really understood Dawkins then.
And he would come to the Christmas carol service,
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the most unlikely people will turn up at Christmas time through your doors.
Absolutely incredible, isn't it? And if you were to design an evangelistic campaign in which millions of extra people would come to church and sing, "Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord," and if you could organize for all these churches around, the country to be united in this one evangelistic campaign. I mean, imagine the political nightmares and the headaches, and imagine the expense. Imagine trying to get shopping centers to pipe the campaign songs into the shopping centers, and yet they do,
Yeah. And people want that as well. Like, so
Right.
sometimes there's been an attempt, hasn't there, to, the world's moved on a bit. People probably want something different at Christmas. Let's give them something fresh and new.
Like
And
what?
To be honest, though,
you know,
what people want is they want to rock up for your traditional carol service and they know the songs,
Yeah.
sing all the carols.
yeah.
No.
It's totally. It is like that tweet that I keep on talking about. Last year I saw a tweet. Somebody said, "I've just come out of the National Gallery, and I've gone through the history of Western arts in an afternoon, and I can summarize it in 7 words. It's 1,000 years of crucifixions, then stripes." Which I think, it's unfair and it's a broad brushstroke, but it's like,
Nice.
for 1,000 years we've been concentrating on the Jesus story, and then to the degree that we turn our back on the Jesus story, just stripes, which is pretty harsh on abstract art, but probably fair as well.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
And to the degree that we turn our back on the Christmas story, I think, what do you get? You just get, a dog bouncing on a trampoline. Thank you, John Lewis. I feel so Christmassy now.
Yeah, it's profound.
Yeah. I think Christmas is one of those places where you feel the post-Christian fallout, right? There's all sorts of places where you feel the post-Christian fallout, but when you just celebrate celebration, it falls flat, right? If you need something bigger than yourself to celebrate. You need the light that comes and dawns in the darkness.
Yeah, because I mean, like Christmas, you can think, oh, everybody enjoys a bit of Christmas because you just have a big party and a celebration. But actually, for a lot of people, it's not a very celebratory time, is it?
Right.
And so, actually,
Yeah.
what is the hope?
Christmas
in
is
the
about family.
darkness?
Oh,
You're like,
oh
is
dear.
it? Yeah, so like light in the darkness, people walking in darkness have seen a great light. I mean, that's a great way in at Christmas, isn't it? 'Cause a lot of people can identify with the walking in the darkness.
Right.
But
right.
actually, the John Lewis advert isn't going to offer much
No.
light.
And especially if it's not the most wonderful time of the year, which is not, family breakdown, and now you've got to all be under one roof, or you've got to, live with the in-laws, and everyone's on blow-up beds, and, tempers fray, and all of that. And you have to eat turkey. So, like, everything.
I like a bit of turkey.
No, you don't.
I do.
Nobody likes turkey. So how much turkey have you had, like, this year?
I always have a daily portion.
How much roast turkey
my
have you had
5
this year?
portions of turkey.
You don't
a
like
day.
turkey. If you liked turkey, you would have had it at least once in 2019. But you haven't.
I would have had turkey twisters in the past, but Jamie Oliver's got rid of all of that stuff. So
Look to your own heart. You know the truth of this. I want to release you guys from turkey. It's just such a nonsense. Years of peculiar tradition have just blinded you to the obvious. Anyway, that's not why I brought you all here. So yeah, invitation. It's the easiest invite of the year, isn't it? And I was doing some teaching. I was just in Belfast over the weekend and speaking at the Irish Youth Convention on the Saturday. On the Sunday, I was with a bunch of churches that I'm going to return to in April, and I was trying to get them excited about inviting people to April. And my 2 points on inviting, and I think this works for Christmas invitations, are put yourself into the invitation and bring them into the event. So you put yourself into the invitation. You don't just, you've got a flyer and you say, we're doing something. I think it's on a Sunday, and then walk in the other direction.
Right.
I was just thrusting
and
the
hit them.
and then hit them. And yeah, it's not it's a take it or leave it. We're doing this thing in church, but you probably don't want You say, I'm a bit of a Jesus guy, and it would mean the world to me if you actually came to Carols by Candlelight on Sunday night. It'll be fantastic. But putting yourself into the invitation means saying it would mean the world to me if you came.
You're not spurning the event, you're spurning me. If you
Yes, that's right. Emotionally,
just to layer that on you.
Yeah. Guilt trip them into coming. But it's, But at that stage, it is the quality of your relationship that's bringing someone, not just the quality of the mulled wine.
Sure.
Not just the quality of the publicity. But, what really brings people to these events is actually the quality of the relationship. So why don't we do that more and say, hey, this is important to me. It would be important to me if you came to this. And remember, I helped you move last summer.
Yeah.
You can add that if you want. So you put yourself into the invitation, but you also bring them into the event.
Yeah.
So, because we've all invited friends to things, and it's a 7:30 event, and you get the text message at 7:28 saying,
"Oh, not going to make it. Sorry,
not going to make it."
Yeah.
And that's it. Whereas if you've had them over for dinner first, you lock the doors of the car.
Yeah, well, lots of people do that kind of thing, don't they? They say, come around for mince pies and mulled wine, and then we'll go to the carol service, or come back afterwards, or whatever.
Right.
Beforehand, if you do it beforehand, you can definitely get them there. But
Yeah.
So it does work.
And you had a good tip earlier as well about the aftermath of the event, making the most of that opportunity.
Did I?
Yeah.
What did I say?
It
was profound.
It was
clearly,
so profound. It passed, from your mind into from somewhere into my mind.
The follow-up.
The follow-up. So make the most of saying, hey, you came along to the Carols by Candlelight. What did you make of it?
Sure. Yeah.
We're a strange bunch, aren't we, us Christians? But what did you make of it?
So the thing that struck me when you were saying, you've been in Belfast and you're saying to these guys, let's think about inviting for April. I mean, so obviously Christmas is almost upon us, and I'm not saying it's too late, but
no.
But in one sense, or in one way to think of it, is that in a sense the groundwork needs to be laid for further in advance as well.
Right.
So one big thing I think is an issue for some Christians is that they don't really know who to invite. So it's easy to be stuck in a Christian bubble and not really know that many non-Christians, or you have very close relationships with Christian friends, as is understandable, and then not as deep relationships with some of your non-Christian friends, and that makes some people feel like they can't invite people to stuff. So I mean, I guess as well, there's a challenge for us as Christians not to wait till the last minute and think like, oh man, now I don't know any non-Christians. Right. You know, you're saying, who should I invite for Christmas? Well, I don't know. Like, you know, we should have been out there in the world for. And actually, I think, you know, maybe I feel that more acutely because actually for 8 years I worked in the church, and you are in a Christian bubble. I mean, so I'm always amazed when people who don't work in the church say that, because I'm like, you must literally spend your days in a workplace with non-Christians or whatnot. And okay, maybe some people work far away and stuff, but neighbours or people at the gym or the tennis club or whatever, or whoever it is, you know, wherever you go and the things you do. Yeah. You know, if you've got kids, it's going to be families of kids' friends and stuff. Yeah.
But is it that we fear being contaminated by the world that we don't actually throw ourselves into those relationships? Like, why is it that we don't have those deep friendships with those beyond the church? Tell me, Paul.
I don't know. I mean,
we need your answer.
I mean, there are the extremes, aren't there? Of you know, we mustn't mix.
Right. Yes.
But I think that's quite rare, isn't it? I think people feel like we've been contaminated. If anything, we've been contaminated by the spirit of the age of like, well, your truth is yours and my truth is mine, and I should never kind of impose my beliefs on you by even inviting you to something, because that may be offensive. Right.
So yeah, pinning your colours to the mast, and yet there are some things that you pin your colours to the mast on. So like, I'll support Australia no matter what, no matter how soundly we're being thrashed by the English, and I'll walk through a public place with a Wallabies jersey on, you know, supporting my team.
Yep.
And people recognise that, but wouldn't it be nice if we were like that with Jesus? You know, I'm an 1,000% Jesus guy.
Yep.
No matter what people say.
Yeah. So people will happily go hard for you know, Lib Dems or Tories or Labour online, won't they? As they kind of like back this person, or back this, and don't back that. Yeah. But we're more hesitant about backing Jesus openly.
Yeah, which is what Tom Holland said the other day. You know, I don't want to hear what bishops think about Brexit, but you know, so often what we hear from bishops is about, you know, Brexit and not about Jesus. Stuff. Dear me.
Teach the weird stuff. That was his.
Yeah.
more weird stuff. That's
stuff.
what we need.
Totally. Yeah. So invitations, let's put ourselves into the invitations, let's bring our friends into the event, and let's make the most of after the event and say, hey, what did you make of that? And where do you stand on all these Christian things?
Let's talk about that a little bit then, just because I'm sure you've been in those situations, or I've definitely been in those situations where you go, oh, what did you make of that? And they go, oh yeah, it was good. Yeah. And it's almost like pulling, you know, trying to get blood from a stone afterwards. And I just think like, you know, maybe you or I might be a bit more kind of confident to push that and go, you know. But for a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, what do I say now? That's the end of the conversation. Yeah. What do you say to the person who just kind of seems a little bit indifferent? You know, occasionally you get someone who comes out and they're like, that was amazing. And, you know, they're you know, clearly affected by what's been said. But a lot of the time, people just kind of seem, that was nice.
It was nice.
And now I'm going to go back to my life.
I think we all know what to say at that point. Like, we all know. So what do you make of Jesus? Like, do you have a faith yourself? Where do you stand on Christianity? Like, we know that any of those three lines will do. Like, what do you make of Jesus? Where do you stand on Christianity? Do you have a faith yourself? Or a synonym. Use some kind of version of that. We know that we could say that, don't we? It's just we fear the tumbleweed that blows in at that stage.
I don't know if some people do. I wonder whether that's like, it's so second nature now to you though.
Maybe.
Because this is what you do.
Yeah.
Like, I think for some people they literally just think, I don't know what to say now.
Yeah. So what do you make of Jesus? Okay, so there's three lines. What do you make of Jesus? Do you have a faith yourself? Where do you stand on Christianity? Yeah. Something like that. I don't know.
I mean, it's and I guess like you listening in particularly to what's been said in the sermons. If there's something to draw specifically from the talk, you know, which is why you have to listen.
No
switching off.
And what I say when I do student missions, and if I've got a prayer meeting first with all the students who are the Christians there, like I tell them, after I finish speaking, as soon as I sit down, I want you to turn to your non-Christian neighbor and go, controversial. right? And it could have been the most bland
They
thing.
didn't even need prompting.
That's right.
They just did it.
Controversial. And what's fascinating is that then the non-Christian's like, was it? Oh, I suppose it was. And then they actually start to think about it in a
Just
different
said
way.
you're lost.
Yeah,
You're,
right.
You know, you're
Or
like
whatever.
you're like a toddler. No.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I do think it's important to follow up on that and say, so, yeah, what do you make of this Jesus stuff? And you know I'm 1,000% for Jesus. What about you? Get into that conversation. And I love Rico's stuff on, if they go quiet at that point, you go quiet. It's that you don't keep bashing on the door if they've double bolted it in your face.
But as in like it's sometimes you just got to let it.
Sometimes you just move on.
Oh,
right?
I thought you meant just like I'm not going to speak till they speak. I'm just gonna. I can wait them out. Like.
Yeah. No, if you raise Jesus in that kind of sense, what do you make of Jesus? And they're like, don't bother me about that.
Right.
Okay. All right. We'll just go quiet.
Probably not best just to
till
push
Easter
that at that
or
stage.
whatever. You know. And you just sort of move on. You don't move on from loving the person, but you move on from sowing the seed at that point.
Yeah.
If they've closed themselves off to it. That's what's brilliant about the parable of the sower, is that you've got one seed is hard to you. That's all right. You've got another one.
You just throw the seed.
You've got another one.
You're not responsible in a sense for where it lands.
Yeah.
So.
We have good seed. There is good soil. You just keep moving on. So, yeah, let's make the best use of Christmas. Let's be inviting people. And let's see what God does, because it's a phenomenal opportunity. You have millions of extra people coming in to sing, "Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord."
Yeah.
That does something to people.
And if you need a good kind of video that might help with some of these things,
you know where to come. You know where to come. Speaklife.org.uk. Speaking of wonderful videos that help you reach out, we are so privileged to have John Lovell from the States. He lives in Texas and he works for Christian Vision, otherwise known as CV, a wonderful organization that's trying to reach 1 billion through online mission and trying to connect people from online into face-to-face discipleship. And reaching out in a really effective way. So what we're going to do is we're going to see one example of a video that CV have produced, and then we're going to get to talk to John Lovell in the flesh. Let's have a look at this video called "What is the Meaning of Life?"
One of the worst feelings imaginable is the feeling of being alone. This is why solitary confinement is one of the cruelest punishments ever in human history.
Yeah, we were designed for relationships. The most meaningful thing in life is to be truly known by another person.
But this can actually be kind of scary, too. What if I let people down? Or what if when someone learns who I really am, they'll realize they can't really love me? How are we supposed to really find meaningful relationships?
And so the Bible speaks to all of this. It says that God created the world in order to share with us the beauty of existence.
God's desire for us is to have significant friendships, to be part of families, to create things, and to share our work with others.
And all the while depending on God as our source of love and life.
But here's the thing, there's so many barriers to that. There's loneliness, fear, hatred.
And the Bible claims that these are a result of our being disconnected from God. Without God, we don't actually know who we are anymore. But at the center of the Bible story is Jesus, who wants to bring us back into a relationship with God. Jesus claimed that God loves us for who we are, and that he calls us into a relationship with him despite our failures. And when you realize how loved you are by God, that he is not ashamed of you, it changes everything. It gives you a source of love that is not your own.
So the story of the Bible is calling us into the most important relationship.
Yeah, it's calling us to know and be known by the Creator God himself.
So here we are with John Lovell. Great to have you here in Eastbourne.
Yeah.
It is a pleasure of mine to be here, fellas. Yes.
So where do you live normally?
Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas.
All the way overseas.
Okay. And you work for this organization, CV.
Yes.
Just give us a brief synopsis of who are CV and why do they do what they do?
Absolutely. So CV is a Christian nonprofit whose mission it is to touch 1 billion people with the gospel and give them the opportunity to become a true follower of Jesus. So we do that through a variety of means and methods. I'm more, and our team in America is more involved with digital efforts, a lot of media, a lot of marketing online. One of the main we have sort of three main strategies we work with overseas. The main one being CV outreach. That refers to when we have a program through which a church can come alongside us. We market videos through their webpage, something online about the meaning of life. It could have to do with sadness, or it could have to do with happiness or your marriage, things like that. Just general topics that anyone could search. They find it online. They find it on a church's website. And at the very end of it, there's just an opportunity to write a question, write something going on in your life. You send it in, and that comes through us that we can then route to the nearest pastor to them. So it's connecting people to the local church. It's sort of an opportunity for them to be online, asking questions, watching videos. And we get quite a number of responses every month, several hundred, where just people are asking questions that they don't feel like they have anyone in their life that they can talk to about. So they come write it in online.
Yeah, people used to go to pastors with their questions. Now they go to Google.
Yes, they go to Google, and some of the responses we get are just heartbreaking. People are going through tough times, tough situations, and to me it's a little surprising. Maybe y'all can relate to this, that we have church communities. We have people in our lives who we talk to about struggles and things going on. Yeah. So when I see someone who's searching online for that sort of thing, it kind of breaks my heart, but also it's a real opportunity there, that they're actually searching for things online that we can just make a video about, or we can just make some sort of media that relates to it. And then from there we say, and if you'd like to talk to someone, please do so, you know?
And so that was kind of an example we just saw, like, what is the meaning of life? I guess that's a very Googled search phrase. Yeah.
Yes, we have kind of marketing gurus who just do a ton of keyword research, where we never really occasionally we'll make videos that are just explicitly gospel presentation, but more often than not, we just do a ton of research into what are people searching. And kind of some of the ones I mentioned, meaning, marriage, sadness, there can be addiction. We just look up things like this, and we see what people are searching for. Then we make content based off of that. So that one, yes, that was meaning of life. We actually worked with the Bible Project to produce that one. We have other ones that are very just sort of talking head. Just here's a quick snippet. I filmed several of those myself, where it's just about, here's how you can deal with anger. Here's how you can deal with, or maybe a biblical question. Real quick snippets. Then we have others that really are cinematically quite impressive, where we've filmed a ton of different scenes of people living life in different ways, and we just bring Jesus into it. We have a guy who looks just like Jesus who we have on staff. Who
is that you, John?
Believe
is
it or
that
not,
you?
it's not me.
Someone even more Jesus-y
I know,
than you.
And that's
okay.
awesome. So, yeah, we have like a ton of content like that, and then we do a lot of just sort of testimonies. We get people who can share their story and say, this is what I went through, and people dealing with really tough situations. And then they had their life completely transformed by the gospel. So then we find those people and say, can we film it? Can we tell people your story? And people relate to it online like crazy.
Yeah. I love with your stuff that when you watch a video, the next thing that you are kind of prompted to do is actually connect with someone offline, face to face, because that's a struggle that we always have here, is that obviously, we kind of live on YouTube and Facebook, and the next thing you do after watch a video is watch another video, and then watch another video, and then watch another video, and you've fallen down the hole and 3 hours have gone.
Yes.
And you were just there to Google, how many frames per second is the Happy Land Nativity, and all of a sudden you've lost yourself.
Right.
But you really seem to believe that online is a way of connecting people offline.
Yes. And, part of the reason we see stuff like that work is because, for example, we can measure, a lot of this stuff is just really measurable. We can literally watch what sort of media people can relate to. So we can track a video and see, when do people tend to stop watching? How many of them made it to halfway through the video? How many made it through 90, 100%? So we can really track what type of media is helpful to them. And then from there, yes, we don't say, here's just another video, or here's the CV website. We really don't have any desire for them to know about us. So it really limits it to here's the video, and here's your immediate call to action, which is come talk to someone.
Yeah.
So it's helpful. So if you go to our YouTube page, you know, that's not where you're going to see the views. They have 40 or 50 views each, but where it really takes place is on a church's website, and people will immediately have and we've finally tuned that process as well. Of like, what do people like to see as soon as they're done watching a video? And it's just a question, and it's just would you like to connect with someone right here? So it's cool because the people we have working on this, they just have massive brains, and they just know how to best solve a problem, which is what gets people to click the next thing, you know?
Do you have some good stories about how this has gone
Yes,
well?
Yes, absolutely. And there's sort of two personal favorites. One happened before I started working there, and one I've personally been able to talk with the pastor through. So the first one is a man who was in California. He had been a Marine, I believe. He was a veteran, and he certainly had certain struggles in life, but eventually what happened is he was having fights with his wife, and eventually she left, and it was just him with their two children, and he had nowhere to go. He didn't know what to do. He was sad over his wife leaving. He felt hopeless about how to raise the children by himself. So in his moment of crisis, he searched, my marriage is falling apart. What do I do?
Right.
So he just, Googled it, and believe it or not, he found a video that we had produced that said, this is the meaning of marriage, and this is, divorce is terrible, and marriage can be so difficult, all these different things that we then at the end said, if you'd like to talk with someone, please do. And so it's funny because the man noticed that the video he was watching was based in like LA, and he was up near Sacramento, Northern California. And so he writes in and says, my wife just left me with my two kids. I don't really know what to do. And the pastor says, I'm so sorry to hear that. Could we meet for coffee tomorrow? The man said, well, that's not going to work. I see that this church's website says Los Angeles. And the man says, oh, no, that's just where the video was.
Right.
But I'm 5 minutes down the road. I live at this and this intersection. The man said, oh, so they met the next day for coffee. Through the course of several months in discipleship, that man not only gave his life to Christ, but eventually went on to become a pastor who could then lead others. So he had his life completely transformed through literally searching in a moment of crisis one night, 2 a.m., my marriage is falling apart. So then, and this is just one I personally love because I've been sort of front lines on it, is there was a girl up in Ohio who was dealing with a lot of spiritual darkness in the home. She was dealing with depression, mental health issues, and just a lot in her life going on. And she had some familiarity with the gospel. But she wrote in to one of our pastors, and they just started talking online. It's just via email. And eventually, things were getting very dark in her life. And she was talking to the pastor about it, saying, man, I just don't know how much longer I can go. Eventually, her messages were so dramatic that the pastor sent over mental health care professionals to her home, who then asked her if they're willing, would she come to the hospital with them? And she did. So she left, went with them, immediately was given just the attention she needed that she hadn't received at home, and the pastor met with her there in the hospital, and he introduced her to women at his church who then took her under their wing, and over the course of a week, I believe they just met with her, talked with her, discipled her, and she came to Christ as well. So she gave her life to Christ just this past September. And through this whole process, as she's been learning more and more about herself and about the Bible, it's still a bumpy road ahead, but she's been coming to the church, and she's actually been bringing along her family who are watching their daughter and sister who was racked with anxiety and depression and just a lot of issues, and they now see joy and they see happiness, and she is just invitational, and she's being cared for by women, and the pastor is sort of there now talking with the dad. So it's just sort of a whole family coming to know the church down the road, which we all know a church down the road, but not many people feel a reason to go speak to them about anything. They don't feel that need. So this is sort of saying, if you'd like to talk to them, you might discover there's a reason that you could talk to them, and there's maybe something they have to offer. And so this whole family that's grown up just in Ohio, Christian America, if you will, like you would think they would have access, and they did have access, but they didn't have reason. So this sort of partnership
Yeah.
gave them reason.
Yeah. And people share themselves more online, don't they? They're more honest.
Oh yeah.
With the privacy of just me and the screen, just me and the keyboard.
Right.
And
it feels like an online diary almost. Is
Yeah.
how some of the messages we get.
Which is why so much of your content is kind of pastoral evangelism, isn't it? It's kind of taking those my marriage is falling apart issues and connecting those to the gospel. So that's a beautiful part of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and we definitely recommend to our pastors whenever we partner with them. We just give them little tips and tricks, and it's even what you were mentioning earlier with the Christmas stuff. It's very put yourself in the invitation. Well, this is sort of putting yourself in your message where you listen to what the problems they're bringing up, and then you address that. You don't immediately shoot off, wow, that sounds really tough. Come to my church. We actually highly recommend just staying very pastoral, and there's no guarantee that they have any interest in coming to your church. You know, like we said, like most people are just aware of it. So address the problem and address what they're bringing to you. And so we've just seen massive success of people whose lives get changed just through an online conversation where, they were just willing to be honest. And once they took that leap of faith, we see them get results.
Yeah. That's brilliant, because I'm always saying, you do outreach not to gain converts, to get people to come into your church. You do outreach to offer Christ.
Right.
It's that way, into their darkness you offer the light. And
Exactly.
yeah. So how can first individuals kind of get the most out of CV and be blessed by the resources that you've got, and then we'll think about how can churches get the best out of CV.
Yes. So we have a lot of different projects and it's a little bit different in the U.S. versus the rest of the world. So the main things I would recommend looking into involve CV outreach, which I mentioned, CV resources, and then Yes He Is. So CV resources is our main library of all of our content online. That's pretty much every video we've ever made, every gospel presentation, every testimony, every animation, every sort of thing is on there. And English, Spanish, German, French, we have all sorts of languages, and you can just access them. You literally sign up free of charge, and you just get access to this huge library, which churches can use for their social media. They can use it in their Sunday sermons. They can use it in a Bible study. They can use it however they'd like. That's sort of just a resource. Those same videos are what fuel CV outreach, which is what people can find online. So if you're a church or an individual, CV resources is a great option. If you're an individual who's interested not only in the media, but just maybe a way to get more plugged into a community of believers, is an app called Yes He Is, which is an app run by CV, which is all about equipping people to share their faith. So they can download the app and they get access to those videos and the ability to share them. And we're sort of there on the other side saying, hey, here are just easy wins, easy ways to enter the conversation. You can share video, or you can share an article. We have comment boards about pop culture and stuff like that. It's just ways for people to have conversation. We say, if you're willing to, just share this with your friends. So that's more for equipping individuals. And then if you're a church, CV outreach, which is just an easy way to meet people in your community. And most pastors I know don't pass up an opportunity to speak with someone in their community who's hurting, or who's just going through something in some way. So if you're a church or if you're an individual, the videos are sort of useful for all. But if you're an individual, Yes He Is just a great app where you can engage with this stuff. And if you're a pastor, CV outreach is a way to get people day to day that you can talk to who are going through something.
Right. You've also got some social media packs as well that will help you to
We have
what do you post on Facebook? You guys can.
Yes, because social media can be pretty daunting, and engaging as an organization on the social media level is just not easy. And there's just tons of gurus out there who'll say, here's how you get people to engage with your Facebook group or with your live stream or with your YouTube page, all sorts of things. And so we kind of wanted to help churches to work with that. So we created a program called the Social Partners Program. You can find it on the CV Outreach website. It's basically just a program where we've packaged a week's worth of social media engagement, 52 weeks worth of just, here's a video, here's some questions you can ask leading to the video, here's an image you can post on Fridays to get people ready for Sundays. There's just ways that we've packaged it. It sort of is taking videos from CV resources, but it's just a way to say, hey, we're going to give you the schedule. Here's how you post it. We're going to post some stuff to your Facebook page that if you allow us the access, then we just set that up for you. So it's just a way for churches to feel less intimidated and to feel like online engagement can be doable. Because, you know, and they see tons of engagement. They see people who will comment or people who will share it. And just, as you guys have seen, just connecting with people online is a really valid way to start conversations and to at least get to know each other better and engage with the community.
So that's cvoutreach.io. Is that where they should go?
cvoutreach.com. cvglobal.co will show you the general organization. cvoutreach.com is where you can find the CV Outreach partnership and the CV Outreach social partners program.
Terrific.
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you so much
Absolutely.
for coming all the way across
Pleasure
the
to
pond.
be here.
Yeah. Brilliant. Paul, where can people go to catch up with all we're doing here at Speak Life?
You can head over to speaklife.org.uk. You'll be able to find out everything that's going on there. But I guess most up-to-date stuff you'll find on our Facebook page, which if you search Speak Life UK on Facebook, you'll find it. And you can find all our resources, all the videos on YouTube as well. So head there and keep up to date with what's going on.
That's right. And sharing is caring. So, don't just share and like and comment. Yeah. And watch it as well. Yeah, watch it. All the way to the end. It's good. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the live cast. This will be available as a podcast very shortly. Until then, keep speaking life. Is that what we say? I don't know.
I believe
seems a bit cheesy.
So
That's pretty good.
You've
I
been
like
saying
Keep
it for a
speaking
while
life.
now, so you've got to keep going with it.